Kilmar Ábrego García walked into the I.C.E. office in Baltimore for a simple check-in. Minutes later, agents took him. I.C.E. says he will be deported again. I.C.E. paraded this as their triumph. This is their plan, not a judge's ruling. They presented it as a final blow. Yet almost instantly, that illusion shattered. And what unfolded was not a show of power. It was a meltdown no one inside the agency could stop. Right after the arrest, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem stepped before the cameras. She declared, in stone-cold language, that Kilmar is being processed for deportation. Where to? Not to his home. Not even his region, Uganda, a nation he had never set foot in. That is a paperwork move, not due process. It shows government muscle, not government proof. Wait until you hear what happened next. Just 3 days before, a federal judge looked at the facts and freed Kilmar from criminal custody. The court called him neither a danger nor a flight risk. He kept every order, then walked into that I.C.E. check-in. As if waiting in secret, I.C.E. pounced. This was never about justice. It was about trapping a man who followed every step laid before him. In Maryland, there's a rule I.C.E. hates. When someone files a habeas case, the standing order blocks fast removals for 2 business days. That law kicks in when the second court papers hit the system. It gives time a pause that hit the moment Kilmar's attorney filed. And that right there is the difference between freedom and a vanished man. You won't believe how close I.C.E. came to pulling off their plan, if not for this law. But this isn't round 1. Remember March? The government deported Kilmar to El Salvador's notorious I.C.E. prison. That was a direct violation of court protections meant to keep him out of harm's way. Protections set because a judge ruled he faced grave danger there. Knew, and still crossed the line. Only the highest court, yes, the Supreme Court, forced officials to facilitate his return. After months in a dangerous prison, he was brought back in June, exhausted yet still fighting. Then I.C.E. tried the pressure play. They dangled a deal: plead guilty on a human smuggling case, get quietly flown to Costa Rica, if not, Uganda. Every lawyer said this was open, raw coercion, a punishment of geography, not law. Kilmar refused to bow. He demanded court over coercion. Pay attention to Secretary Noem's official releases. They fired out accusations: gang boss, trafficker, wife beater, even child predator. Those are press statements, not jury verdicts. Under oath in court, Kilmar has pleaded not guilty. The judge, who saw every file and heard every word, released him again. Facts, real, legal, paper facts, beat slogans every time. Remember that. But what about Uganda? CBS News reported DHS's plan to deport him there, made possible by a new agreement for Uganda to take U.S. deportees. That move treats a human being like cargo. It skips over clear danger in El Salvador, tossing justice and safety out the door for speed. Let's talk timeline. The real story. Friday, a judge frees Kilmar. He heads home to Maryland to await trial. Monday, he shows up for his check-in, as ordered, and is snatched in moments. By noon, DHS blasts a statement to the world, but the Maryland standing order is already grinding I.C.E.'s gears to a halt. That pause was Kilmar's lifeline, bought by paper, law, and fast-acting attorneys. There's a long history. In 2019, the immigration bench ruled he couldn't be sent to El Salvador because his life was at risk. Yet, this spring, I.C.E. shipped him there anyway, ignoring that carefully drawn line. Judges had to unravel the mistake, because what I.C.E. called enforcement was just plain defiance. When his lawyers filed in Maryland, they put it in black and white. Sending Kilmar to Uganda, a nation thousands of miles from home, would strip him of due process and put him at risk. With a standing order in force, I.C.E. couldn't move him until at least 4 p.m. 2 business days later. That's law-beating spin. That's process winning over press room drama. Stick to the hard facts. A federal judge freed him because the government failed to show he posed any danger or would run. Kilmar kept his appointments. The only agency breaking their pattern is I.C.E. itself, ducking a full hearing and changing their tactics at every turn. Watch how the I.C.E. story shifts. First, they deported Kilmar illegally to El Salvador. The court forced his return. Now they rush the Uganda angle after he chooses trial over a plea deal. That isn't justice, that's pure squeeze. Each new threat, each sudden change, only reveals more about I.C.E.'s desperation. Those 2 days were the difference between disappearance and legal review. Without them, I.C.E. could disappear people before a judge weighs a single fact. It's a chilling thought, but for many families, it's a reality. This time, the standing order stopped the machine in its tracks. Secretary Noem keeps hammering home that he's being processed for removal to Uganda. But as every lawyer notes, that's a plan, not a court order, not a ruling. Plans can be stopped, and the law is stopping it, at least for now. Let's look behind the noise. The so-called human smuggling case? It grew from a basic traffic stop in Tennessee, where 9 passengers were in the car, and police let Kilmar go with a warning. Charges showed up later. In court, he said, not guilty. The judge released him a second time. I.C.E. then turned a check-in into a trap, pivoting to Uganda right after Kilmar refused their plea deal carrot for Costa Rica. Classic carrot and stick, with lives in the balance. But this fight is massive. If I.C.E. can ignore legal protections, rush deportations, shuffle people to third countries just to dodge the court, nobody's rights are safe. That's why Maryland's order matters. That's why judges keep stepping off the bench to intervene. Kilmar's not asking for special treatment. He's asking authorities to play by the rules. Every check-in, every court date, every hope for fair treatment, he's followed the book. I.C.E. is the one running from the light of a full hearing. Where do things stand? Once again, I.C.E. tried to rush another forced removal. The standing order, the lawyers, and the law stepped in for now. A pattern emerges: illegal deportation, forced return, then new unproven pressure. It's not hard to see who's breaking rules and who's following them. Let's not miss the real bottom line. I.C.E. wanted a flashy victory, a story to feed its own reputation. Kristi Noem, hungry for headlines and never shy to name call, saw a photo op, not a person. Yet the court wanted justice, law, and proof. Kilmar Ábrego García wanted only his day in court. That path, paper process, and proof is still the one leading toward truth. It will never be a one-way ticket to Uganda. Don't blink. The whole saga is a warning. I.C.E. tried to destroy Kilmar Ábrego García, but it looks like all they did was destroy themselves. And now the world is watching what they try next. If you value actual facts over spin, consider subscribing. This story isn't over, but for I.C.E.'s credibility, the damage may already be permanent.